My name is,
Apologies.
no worries. My name is Carlton MacArthur, and my pronouns are he, him, his. And it's a pleasure to serve as your moderator today for this valuable discussion on essential building blocks for elevating your career. For the next hour or so, my fellow panelists will be addressing a number of important topics that we feel are going to be extremely relevant as you look to grow your career in the coming years. Just a brief introduction about myself. I am located in the Washington, D.C. area, so nation's capital, and I have 24 years of consulting experience. However, I've been with Gartner for 3 years now. I'm a managing partner in our public sector organization and focus on providing IT and management consulting services to state and local governments. So just to move forward with the discussion, I want to spend a few moments just to give you a high-level overview of Gartner in terms of who we are so that you're oriented around the organization and the individuals within the organization with whom you will be speaking with today. So Gartner is the world's leading and premier IT research and advisory services company. We've been in business for more than 40 years now, and our objective is to assist our clients with addressing their mission critical priorities. We work at the tip of the spear, meaning we're working with clients on their most critical and strategic types of priorities that are often very complex, cutting across a number of sectors as well as industries, really bringing in the latest consulting as well as IT research to help clients make sure that they're making extremely informed decisions that are going to help them be much more efficient and effective with carrying out their operational and strategic priorities. We serve more than 14,000 organizations across the globe and approximately 75% of the S&P 500. When you look at the types of work that we provide and the types of services that we support our clients with, it's very multidimensional. We're working in every type of function ranging from customer experience and user experience, looking at finance transformation, human resource transformation, and again, really leading in with technology as a critical enabling capability that allows our clients to differentiate how they go to market and how they go about serving their customers and clients. We're primarily known for IT. However, we also work in other areas such as marketing and communications, product management, strategy, as well as supply chain. So when clients really think about Gartner, they're thinking about how can I bring in the latest and greatest thinking around these critical areas that are most important to helping them be successful in how they serve their markets, how they go about gaining market share, as well as how they can go about improving the overall services and support that they're responsible for providing. Again, given our extensive client base of approximately 14,000 clients, we've seen just about any type of critical or strategic challenge that you might face, and we've been highly successful in supporting our clients as indicative of the year-over-year growth that we've had for more than a decade at this point. So let's pivot for a second and talk about what the culture of Gartner is like for a few moments. Having worked at multiple firms before coming to Gartner, I can say that, in my opinion, we definitely have a unique and differentiating culture. A culture that really embodies what it means to bring your authentic self to work. We want to make sure that it's a highly inclusive culture and people feel that their perspectives and their inputs are going to be respected and highly regarded and used in a way that is going to make the collective team successful in achieving its objectives. Again, we're really focused on mission critical priorities and delivering impact to our customers. And we truly embody the no limit mindset. And what does that mean? It means it's focused on innovation, creativity, not being bound by some of the typical boundaries that you may see when you're going into consulting. We really want to make sure that we're bringing in that, again, the latest thinking, that we're being objective in how we are approaching our solution set and solving our clients' critical issues. And then we want to make sure that we're focusing on this as a team, because we believe in the collective being successful more so than individual success. And I think that these values have been embodied throughout the entire organization, and it's part of the key for us being so successful in terms of how we go about supporting our clients. So when you're looking at the type of culture that you may want to fit into, Gartner is one that is really around the people and then how we support our people as well as the clients in order to be successful. So going back to 2018, we embarked upon our DEI journey. I think that we were one of the leading organizations going back 4 years ago that saw the need to be much more inclusive. We're already a diverse organization, but going to the extent of being inclusive takes it another step. How do you make sure that you're not only bringing in the right types of diverse people into your organization, but how do you go about making your culture inclusive, one that is focused on career growth and development, and making everyone feel valued and respected within your organization? So that started with our diversity and inclusion function, where our CEO, Gene Hall, made a pledge that DEI is going to be one of our guiding principles and strategic priorities. Moving forward into 2019, we started to grow our employee resource groups, which I'll talk to in just a few moments. And then we actually launched our diversity and inclusion language guide. So when we talk about diversity and inclusion, what does that really entail? And then what does it look like being put into action? Going into 2020, we all know that there were certain critical moments that took place during that year, all starting with the pandemic very early on. And then we soon found ourselves being enthralled with the George Floyd incident that occurred in the April and May timeframe. And that really put a lot of emphasis on how we go about driving DEI within the organization. I would say that was the impetus for us to really step up our game, if you will. And at that point, we developed a DE&I Center of Excellence. We've taken a lot of steps to grow our DE&I program, part of which is being represented through this discussion that we're having today. And through the DE&I COE, we are really started to, I would say, be highly successful in terms of how we're growing and approaching diversity across the company of over 16,000 employees at this point. Just a few more points on DE&I. We have a number of employee resource groups. We've launched multiple campaigns around DE&I, and I can say that we've been highly successful with our initiatives to date. So when you look at the employee resource groups, we serve a multitude of affinity groups across the company. Again, this is about our culture and how we make everyone feeling inclusive. So there's a group that is focused on women and their professional growth and development. We also focus on pride. We want to make sure that we have an inclusive environment that does not discriminate based upon sexual orientation or identity gender, which is why when we get into introduction, we're going to use our appropriate pronouns. We have Mosaic that's really focused on recruiting and outreach to underrepresented groups in society. We want to make sure that what we look like as a company reflects what society really looks like. So we've placed a lot of emphasis there through that employee resource group, as well as giving a lot of emphasis to our veterans. We've reached out through a number of veteran organizations to make sure that we're bringing veterans into the company and making sure that this is an inclusive place for them to work, as well as individuals that have various forms of disabilities. And lastly, our Black employee research, Black employee network group that really focuses on networking and making sure that we are identifying and addressing the needs of our African American constituents. So that sort of provides you a high-level overview of who we are as a company, what our culture espouses, and how we go about advocating DE&I. And now I'd like to spend a few moments just to introduce our panelists for today's discussion. So as you go through and introduce yourself, panelists, please provide us your name, your pronoun, a description of what you look like for those that may be visually impaired, the business unit that you support, as well as your time with Gartner. So let's start with Garvin. I'll turn it over to you, and then we'll go through each panelist as they are represented on my screen.
All right. Thank you, Carlton. And hello, everyone. My name is Garvin Charles. My pronouns are he, his, and him. In terms of my physical appearance, I am Black with black hair, and I'm wearing a black collar shirt today. In regards to the business unit that I operate under, I'm operating the research engagement services side that is actually an umbrella underneath our global service organization within the organization. I've been with Gartner for a little bit over 6 years now, and I'm based actually in the Atlanta area. Pleasure meeting you all today, and looking forward to our conversation.
Hi, everyone. My name is Maya Mathis. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. For those of you that are visually impaired, I am Black with a white mother. I have short curly brown hair, brown eyes. I'm wearing a blue top with gold dots. I'm also a part of Gartner's finance technology team in the information technology business unit. I've been here for a little over 4 years, and I'm located in Fort Myers, Florida. Nice to see you all today.
Hello, everyone. Pleasure to be here. My name is Mustafa Ali. My pronouns are his and him. Today, I am wearing a blue shirt and a blue suit. I'm a sales leader within the Gartner's technology sales division. I've been in Gartner for a little over 10 years, joining in from Dubai this evening.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shamila Opalua. My pronouns are she, her, and hers. I am a dark-skinned Black woman of East African descent. I have a braided hairstyle today, and I'm wearing a green and white top with a floral pattern. I belong to, or I suppose I work with, within Gartner's global business sales as a sales leader within the HR practice. I've been at Gartner now for about just over 3 years, so 3.5 years, and I'm based in London. Pleased to meet everyone and really looking forward to our conversation today.
Outstanding. So as you can see, we've assembled a highly diverse group for today's discussion, based upon the business unit or segment that they represent, tenures with Gartner, the profession that they're in. So I think that we'll have an extremely engaging discussion. That being said, I will stop sharing my screen and we will get into the panel discussion itself. All right. So let's start with our first question. So can you talk about your tenure in terms of being with Gartner and what you love about Gartner and what keeps you here? Mustafa?
Thanks, Carlton. I'd say the fulfillment of my intellectual curiosity. I mean, at Gartner, you have the opportunity to work with some of the smartest people in the industry. And that's what keeps me going and excited every morning to come into work.
So for me, it's definitely the employee resource groups. As Carlton showed you, Gartner has 6, and we are growing. Through ERGs, I not only met some incredible people, including some on this panel who I now consider my friends, but the ERGs also afforded me an opportunity to bring more of my authentic self to work and advocate for the causes and groups I believe in.
For myself, I think for me, it's what makes me truly fulfilled in the role that I actually partake in is the people that I support. As a people manager that has direct reports, it's really fulfilling to see and watch them grow and perform and really, bring out their full best to work each and every day. And then also having the ability to solve complex problems. There's a lot of times where I have to put a different strategy lens in my day, in my playbook, and it allows me to really diagnose a problem, really have a benefit for that.
Yeah, so for me, I would say quite similar to you, Mustafa. It's really the people I work with. I agree that we have the opportunity to work with some of the smartest people, but they're not smart in a pompous way. I like to call the people I meet at Gartner humble smart. In that they're willing to share that information. They want to collaborate, and it's just a really great way to grow continually and like you said, fulfill that intellectual curiosity.
Great, thank you all. Can you tell me about your earliest moment of feeling truly represented, included, and elevated here at Gartner?
I think for me, one of my biggest milestones in my career where I really felt truly representative was when I first got my first promotion back in 2018. Being that I am Haitian American, there's a lot of times that I'm the first of many in the rooms and spaces that I operate within. So having the ability to see myself get promoted and have opportunity to help others do the same is something I'm truly, truly grateful for.
For me, it was when I was given the responsibility of establishing the business development team in Saudi Arabia. Now, Saudi is a country where Arabic is the standard business language. And I was given this responsibility, being an Indian and a non-Arabic speaker. This for me was a powerful demonstration of my inclusion and elevation at Gartner.
Yeah, I would say on my part, one of the misconceptions that I've had as I've gone through my career is that being a mother and having a family, but also being successful in my career were things that were mutually exclusive. So much so that when I was going through my interview process, I made sure that I made no mention of my family. However, on joining Gartner, my direct manager was a woman who had a family, and her manager was a woman who had a family. And so in that moment, and realizing that I was no longer an exceptional case, I felt so included. And I'll even go further. More recently, joining Gartner, I had a career path that I was following and needed to meet certain benchmarks. However, before the end of 2020, I went out on maternity leave. So in my mind, I thought, well, this is just a price I have to pay. When I get back next year, I can continue pursuing it and hopefully go into the area that I want to. And actually, there was no price to pay. It was incredible at the end of 2020. My performance was prorated, even though I was on maternity leave, and coming back in, I did achieve that promotion. I could go on and do the role that I really wanted. And for me, that was not only feeling included and represented, but actually elevated. There was, and I think it's incredible to be in a place where you don't have to pay a price for pursuing your personal desires.
So for me, I am a member of an ally of all our ERGs. I can't tell you the earliest memory, but I will tell you one of my most impactful days. So as a member and someone who considers themselves part of CAN community, our Collective Abilities Network, I like to see what people post and I like to share myself. So last year, my alma mater started what's called the Soaring Eagle Academy, which helps students with intellectual disabilities transition from high school to college. Recently, a coworker posted that he saw a post that I did on the CAN network a year ago, telling our associates about that program. And the gentleman said that his son applied and he was accepted and he shared a picture. The look on the young man's face and the words from his father were so moving. So to see something like that come full circle was extremely inspiring. And I know that if we didn't have a space like CAN, I wouldn't have known where to share that information or myself get information on how to take care of my physical and mental health.
Great.
Thank you.
And for me, I would say that moment came within the past year when I was promoted to managing partner. So I'm one of a handful of African American partners that I'm aware of on our consulting side, and that sort of represented or is recognition of the value that I bring to the business and my ability to manage a portfolio, grow a business, mentor and coach people. So being elevated into that level of position, which is relatively sought after within the consulting ranks, with validation that I was doing the right things, and it was greatly appreciated. All right. So next question, who here is taking steps in building their networking? Can you give me an example of how networking positively has impacted your career?
Yeah, sure. So when I left the law field a couple of years ago, and then when I came and transitioned to Gartner, I did my very best to try to learn from everyone and anyone that I could, as well like expose myself to many different operational rooms and spaces where I can possibly really obtain information. My level of proactiveness really resonated with my peers at the time, as they saw how driven I was, not only to create information opportunities for myself, but opportunities for them as well. So soon after, individuals that I had built connections with, whether it was years ago, months ago, they started reaching out to me and letting me know of these additional opportunities that I was not actually aware of. Being able to leverage my network allowed me to be in those spaces with those opportunities that help not only further my organizational brand, but also the visibility amongst many leaders in the organization.
I've got quite a few of my own, but I'll share one that has been the most significant one in my life. So about 4 years ago, I was doing my master's in business psychology with coaching as a focus. And we had one of the guest lecturers from International Coaching Federation, and she happens to be a master coach. After the class, we struck up a conversation and I shared a few things about myself, and that was that. 2 years later, that guest lecturer reached out to me on LinkedIn, and she reminded me of the conversation that we had, and she invited me to join her next coaching cohort that she was leading here in the region. And that actually led me to earn my ICF credential, which Gartner supported throughout. And that not only has strengthened my position within Gartner as a sales leader, but also as a leadership coach outside of Gartner. And that to me is perhaps one of the best examples in my life of networking meaningfully.
All right, thank you. How do you know you've built an effective network? And how do you transition from building a network to building advocates?
Art. So you know you've built an effective network when your brand spreads. When you hear from people who are not in your network that they know you and they ask for help or bring up past projects, that's how you know that you are becoming known. When you work with someone often or when you speak with someone, have good interactions. You know, every time you talk to someone, that's an opportunity to build your brand and your network. And if you do that well, you will build up your relationships and you'll transition naturally from the person being a part of your network to the person being one of your champions and advocates.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think often when it comes to networking, we, try and impress each other with our strengths, but it's really through our weaknesses that we connect. So I would say that when it comes to building a network, for me, I've really gone about it by looking at the skills and being aware that the skills I have today that are making me successful today are not necessarily the skills that are going to make me successful in the future. And so in building that network, I've almost always looked for opportunities to build my skills, reaching out to people in the organization for coaching and support. And in doing that, what that has done is quite naturally and organically, as I've built those skills and they see I'm working towards something, has moved into advocacy. A lot of the opportunities that I've had within my organization and current and past have come from individuals that have worked with me build skills, and they've opened those doors for me. So if I think about how do you know you've built an effective network, I would say look at the breadth of your network, right? Is it Are you building strong relationships with a diverse range of contacts? So not only people who are in your organization who are at the same level as you, is your network able to give you those bridges and connections to opportunities that you otherwise wouldn't have access to? And I would say the other piece is your network a reflection only of your past, or is it also a reflection of your future and where you are going? So those are some of the things that you can really consider to think about if you've built an effective network.
For me, building a network is a twofold process, right? You have got your internal network, the organization where you work, and then you have got your external network. I believe that your current job should never become your sole identity. I mean, internally, one must undoubtedly excel at what they do and build a network that will earn them the advocates. In some cases, you will need to nudge people and even ask them to become your sponsors. Externally, online is the best way, in my opinion, and one must, I think, strive to establish a strong online presence, master a subject, speak about it frequently, accurately, build stories around it, write about it, and repeat. That's one of the ways I have found, and strong networks can be built.
Most people reach out to their networks to help elevate and advocate for them in their careers. What steps can someone take to advocate for themselves?
Yeah, so I think advocating for yourself is something that I've found difficult, but one thing, I think about as we go through our educational careers, we're taught that, if you work really hard, your hard work will pay off. And typically we carry this into our career, our professional career. So we think, if I do this really good work and hard work, some maybe opportunities will open up for me, and, those opportunities will come, but it doesn't always work like that. And so as I think about this, I think about what I did, and I think there's that first step that I recommend, which is building the skill of self-confidence. That is something that we sometimes don't always have naturally, and I call it a skill because I've heard it defined as the ability to believe in yourself to accomplish any task, regardless of the odds, difficulty, and adversity. And I say, once you've built that self-confidence, look at your skill set, look at the work that you're doing internally. There are aspects of that work that you're really good at. And in fact, you could even go further to say that you're exceptional. So take those areas and skills, approach people and take that opportunity and look for those opportunities to build value, and give value to individuals in your team and across the organization as a whole. And so those will be the couple of steps that I feel I have taken in building that, and would advise others to do so as well.
Shamila, those were the exact lessons that I learned as a child. Your hard work will speak for yourself, right? And what I discovered is that was one of the biggest career mistakes I made in early days, wherein I expected people to recognize my work and never really advocated for myself. The reality is people are busy. They genuinely want to help you to succeed, but they don't have the time to look for what you are good at. You must direct your audience's attention. And one of the most misconceptions about self-promotion, that it is bragging. I mean, this statement cannot be further from truth. In my view, self-promotion is a process of informing the appropriate people about the skills and value that you bring to the organization, really. It's a process of looking at what you do every day, analyzing your skills, and using them to advance yourself. And by beginning your results with and discussing your results with appropriate people, I mean, you get noticed, become an expert in your field, and go out and help people in the industry, and your network will automatically grow organically.
Yeah, all excellent points. Just to put a final point on this particular one is, you're responsible for owning your own career. No one is going to advocate for you more than yourself. Understand your strengths and capabilities and how they are of value to the organization, and be able to have a clear personal brand and value statement for what you bring to the table and how it's going to help promote the agenda of the organization. That is one of the ways in which you can advocate for yourself without necessarily seem like it's a humble brag. You're couching yourself in the context of, here's what the organization benefits from the value that I bring to it. All right.
I'd like
Next.
to add to that, Carlton.
Sure.
I'm sorry, just because I'm one of the younger people. I know that we are with a panel of young professionals and a group of young professionals attending. So I am the first to admit, advocating for myself, it's been extremely difficult, especially earlier in my career. I know I'm not the only one who feels this way. And I got to a point where I realized that even though I wasn't advocating for myself actively, I was doing so passively. I'm a doer. I like to be active. I like to help. And I found that by proactively offering help to people and taking on tasks that others weren't, I was bringing myself into the view of others. I did find out a little throughout my career, a little later, that that doesn't take you that final step. You know, it doesn't take you over the finish line, as Shamila and Mustafa said. You have to be young, you have to be hungry, and you have to be humble. So when it comes down to it, if you know you can do something, don't just say you can. Get the certification, show your work, show that you can do it, and everything will naturally come. I truly think to advocate for yourself at the base level, you need to do good and you need to do it well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Maya. Next question. Soft skills, also known as core skills, include critical thinking, problem solving, leadership, communications, etc. These skills are an essential part of improving one's work and can positively influence furthering one's career. What are some soft skills you may have struggled with at the beginning of your professional journey, and how do you go about building them?
I think I'll go here. So my the soft skill I struggled with, I would say, is communication. Naturally, at the start of my career, you sort of come in, and these are things that are not taught, but rather they're caught. And so I was a very direct communicator, and after some feedback from managers, from peers, I realized that it's not working. So my direct communication might be a style that works for me, but didn't work for my peers. So what I did is I set out and I asked my manager to give me feedback from team meetings, give me feedback from client calls. And one of the skills that I have really taken on as I look at communication is storytelling, especially when we think about capturing an audience, engaging an audience. And so I worked with my manager on that likewise to make sure that I was a better storyteller, that I could engage people and get them to where I wanted to get them through a story versus that really direct communication, which often doesn't land and doesn't go very well.
I think for me, the two things that really resonate here is coaching and leadership. Early on in my career, I kind of struggled in those areas because I was so bottled up in trying just to really be the best associate I can possibly be for myself. Being that I was in an individual contributor role, there was a lot of metrics and things that we were accounted for. And I really wasn't really thinking about helping others or lifting others to a degree which I knew I potentially could have done. And it took a couple years for me to really understand the value in coaching and pouring into others. And it allowed my leadership skills to actually kind of flourish, because once I kind of, that light bulb clicked, a lot of different opportunities that were being presented to me early on in my career, I was able really to capitalize them, and I was able to maximize the level of impact and value that I was not only bringing to the organization, but bringing to my peers directly.
Thanks, Garvin. Next question is, we recognize not all career paths are linear, especially at Gartner, where it's common to have what we call a checkered past or checkered career. Can you talk about how you've evolved your career and got to where you are now?
So I've followed a career path in sales and have always been really fulfilled. However, I do have a mentor within Gartner who worked as a sales manager for about 5 years. He's an incredible coach. And so having worked at Gartner and being that sales manager for 5 years, he was able to take the best part of his role, which was that coaching, that developing individuals, and moving to a sales learning development role. So he gets to do the favorite part of his job full time and move his career forward as well, which I think is brilliant and really inspiring.
So I graduated with a degree in resort and hospitality management from a local university. About 2 years after I graduated, I joined Gartner as a research and advisory coordinator. I then became a research and advisory data specialist and am now a PM. Working in hospitality, it really gives you a chance to grow your soft skills, and these skills became incredibly valuable and a big part of my brand of being a helper. In each role I've had here, I've tried to help as many people as possible with whatever I can. And in turn, I showed others that I was capable of doing more than what my original role entailed. In the United States, you start college when you're 17, you study for over 4 years, 4 years or more, and you pay massive sums for it. 17 is too young to make a decision that will impact you for the rest of your life. So I'm incredibly grateful to be here at Gartner, where I do have that opportunity to climb the career jungle gym and find what my true passion is.
For me, when I joined Gartner back in 2016, I was a second-year law student, and I pursued a career at Gartner. When I pursued my career, I didn't have an IT background, so I can't say I was like a coder or an engineer or anything like that, similar to what my father was. But I truly enjoyed learning, helping others, and really providing solutions to complex problems. I had extreme research curiosity, and it served as a true benefit for me as I was able to kind of serve in multiple research functions and roles until ultimately I was promoted to a senior specialist. It was kind of at that time that I really felt that I truly knew and what my passions for my career would be moving forward, as I really liked empowering others and really helping associates bring their best, full, authentic selves to the workplace. So by driving that passion of helping others to help achieve them have the same success that I had, it helped me kind of get into a manager function that I play in now, and it's kind of the perfect role for me at this time.
Sales is an accidental career, they say, right? And I think I'm a true example of that. I studied technology in college. I did my, network engineering, if you like. Then I joined Gartner as an account exec. And when I got promoted, to a sales manager role, that was in Saudi Arabia, leading a business development team. I did that for a year and a half, and then came back to Dubai, leading a public sector team. Again, an example of a checkered career, being in farming roles, being in hunting roles, and leadership roles. That again, such an opportunity only Gartner could provide, perhaps.
Yeah, and as for myself, having been here for 3 years at this point, my career has been a little more linear. I came in as an experienced consultant with over 20 years of experience, but I've also been able to broaden out my skill set since coming to Gartner. So I've been able to lead multiple types of engagements that were outside of the areas that I'd focused on previously. And I feel that's been very important in terms of making me a more well-rounded consultant. It's also provided me the opportunity to stretch as part of a partnership team that's really focused on developing go-to-market strategies and figuring out how we're going to serve our clients with certain solution sets. So while my career path has not necessarily been linear since I've been here, it has been very broad and diverse in the types of work that I've been able to do, as well as the individuals that I've been able to engage with, which has always been extremely exciting. So one last question before we wrap up and go into our Q&A session is, what is the best advice you can share with someone interested in elevating their career? What is one action you would want someone to take away from today's discussion? Garvin?
Yeah, for me, be proactive about building career and be comfortable about being uncomfortable. For a lot of us that you heard our stories and a lot of us are answering some of these questions, a lot of it wasn't very clear for us, but we had this level of proactiveness to continuously to try to figure it out. You don't necessarily need to have all the answers right away. but be able to take on some ambiguous tasks and challenges. Those are things that are going to help strengthen your skills and strengthen who you are as an individual. These activities will allow you not only to be able to get feedback from others, but be able to accept feedback when you need some levels of improvement from others about your performance or opportunities. And by doing that, that will generate more opportunities for you, and then that will open doors that you might not even think of.
I have two. So to echo what I said earlier, be hungry, be humble, and make sure you not only tell your successes, but you show your successes. The second thing I'd say is do as much as you can and make sure it's what you like. I didn't start working with ERGs and doing other things with Gartner Gives and volunteerism here with the idea of networking or advancing my career. I did it because it was something that I was already passionate about, and it was exciting that I would be able to do something that I already did in my everyday life outside of work and bring it to my coworkers. My energy for doing the things that I liked ended up not only being contagious and helping and inspiring others with their passions, but it let people know me, know what I was passionate about, and see what I was capable of doing.
That's great, Maya. I'm hoping my response does address a few questions that I see on the chat. The first question I think is you got to ask yourself is, what does that elevated career for you look like, right? And once you have that image of yourself in that future state, ask yourself the question, what is it that you need to do today to make that image a reality? Based on that, invest in yourself. Keep an open mind. And when you make mistakes, which we all do, don't beat yourself up. One of my favorite coaches, Jamil Qureshi, he said, success is not about making fewer mistakes. It's simply about our ability to learn, develop, and grow from the mistakes we do make. So go out, make those mistakes, make them early on, learn from them, and keep that future state in mind.
Yeah, I would probably start with a quote as well, and it says, 20 years from now, you'll be more disappointed by the things you didn't do than the ones that you did do. So sail away from the safe harbor. And in saying that, my advice is get out of your comfort zone, explore, dream, and discover. Elevating your career or taking your career to the next level isn't necessarily a straight or a clear path. But first of all, start by believing that you can get to where you're going, build the skills that you require to get there, and be prepared. Always be in a state of preparing for where you want to be, so that when that window of opportunity opens, you can enter in confidently.
Great, all exceptional responses. Thank you so much. Let's take a few questions from the chat. So first question is if you were to explain the objective of a personal brand or how to test you have an effective brand, what 3 things would you highlight? It doesn't have to be 3, but what's one thing that you would highlight?
I would say that Maya spoke to this a little bit earlier when she said, if you have an effective personal brand in the area that you're looking at, people will seek you out. People will look for you. People who you don't know will be seeking out your support in the area where you have branded yourself. So that's certainly one of the things. If you have people coming to you that you don't know, you have built an effective personal brand.
Now, I would add to that by saying your reputation precedes you. So when people hear your name, they already know what you bring to the table. So that's a way that that's my sort of yardstick, if you will, for measuring if my brand is becoming effective.
I think for me, if I had to add a third, I would say your interactions, right? Your interactions provide value. And so if you're not providing value in those interactions that you're making, those connections that you're making, that's when you can also know that you're not doing as much to promote your brand as much as you can. Because I know from just my experiences, every time whether I'm on a call like this or on a call with peers or even in like just at a coffee station, I try leaving those interactions with something valuable coming out of it. So that way I know it resonates on that person.
I
And
would
vice
like to
versa.
say, For the objective, so when you think of just a brand in general, there's usually feelings associated with it. So if I said Disney, Nike, Pepsi, Walmart, I'm sure the majority of people on the call had a reaction to one of those words, be it positive or negative. And when it comes down to it, like there is for businesses, you yourself need your own brand and you need to build it. So when people hear your name or hear something you're associated with, their reaction intrinsically is positive. So, externally, it will also be positive.
Great. Another question is, how do you go about asking someone to be your mentor or sponsor?
A simple response, ask. It's first you got to identify whom you want to be your sponsor and why, right? There is a lot of thinking to it before you approach someone. And once you have identified that individual, it's asked, what's the worst that is going to happen? They're going to say no, right? And most probability you will find a yes is waiting for you. So just go and ask.
Yeah, I would just
Go ahead, sorry.
I was gonna say to Mufasa's point as well, it's okay to have multiple mentors too, right? And in terms of the why, some mentors will serve different purposes. Like you might have a mentor just like that's really trying to help you outside of work, right? Just more like in your personal branding, your personal skill sets. And then you might have one that's really trying to coach you really, really hard to that next promotion. So it's really important to kind of understand what the need is for yourself, but also what those individuals can add or what value adds they can add into your careers or into your working days. And like be fearless. What is the worst that's going to happen? Like Mufasa said, like they're going to tell you no, go on to the next one. And you feel like that could be a mentor for you. But the thing about it is don't be silent, right? If you're not proactively advocating for these things won't happen. And if they do happen, they won't happen as quickly as you want them to.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say know why you're asking that individual to be your sponsor and to be your mentor. So if you get someone that's really busy, they might say, look, why don't you speak to X? If you definitely want that person, know why you want them, know what it is about them, that and why you want them to mentor you. So if they try to palm you off or move you on, you can say, no, there's a specific reason I'm asking for your time. So they might not be able to give you the cadence that you want. They might not be able to speak to you monthly, but if you know why you want to speak to them, they will give you the time.
I have nothing to add.
Great. For someone that may be having a challenge with building relationships with senior leaders, any tips or tricks that you could offer up?
I do. So one thing I noticed throughout my career as I started working with more and more senior leadership was how important it was to understand their motivations and their objective. One thing I learned was it's kind of a crude saying, but they want the baby, not the birth. So if you find yourself losing the interest of your senior leaders while they're speaking, that could be one of the reasons. They want the result necessarily. They don't need the journey. In addition, just showing that you can meet the team's objectives, that what you're working on and you are doing are fulfilling the senior leaders' own objectives. It's slow, but it'll happen, and they'll start recognizing you as a good associate and employee, and then they'll start recognizing you for other things and possibly new opportunities, and that relationship will grow. It does take time.
To add to Maya's point, I would really try to understand the milestones of the organization. I know for me in my career, a lot of the times in getting myself forward or pushing myself forward, it was really doing some of the stuff that Maya had mentioned, like really understanding what the business objectives were, but also being proactive about saying, hey, I can take that extra additional task and really proving it to them that I'm as a valuable asset to the organization. It helped transcend a lot of my relationships with some of my stakeholders to the point where, I might not directly be underneath them, but they were still reaching out to me for support on various different things.
Great.
Oh,
I'm
I
sorry.
was gonna just sort of come in and say a little bit like what we was talking about, advocating for yourself. The reason that you may not have their attention or you may be finding it difficult is that you could be doing one thing, thinking that everyone can see what you're doing and it should be obvious. So again, like Mustafa said, open your mouth and let them know what you're doing and let them know what you're good at. And that could be a reason why you simply haven't told them what you're doing and how well you're doing it.
And if you were to go back in time when you first entered the working world, what would you do differently, if anything?
I have something to say, but first I want to say that is a very dangerous way of thinking to your own success. So I would encourage you not to think about that. And if you do, it's only in the frame of what would I tell someone else, which I'm about to do. And I think the biggest thing I would say in like my first few jobs in the working world is I didn't champion for myself enough. I didn't champion for my pay. I didn't champion for my level. I didn't champion myself for my promotions. I'm lucky that I've learned now how to do that, but I did feel for a long time that not being able to advocate for what I actually needed and wanted to feel successful and happy, it's better now. But I would definitely say that's advice to give to anyone. Champion yourself, advocate for yourself.
I think
Totally
for
agree,
me,
Maya. That's the best thing, I guess, you can do for yourself.
Yeah. And as for me, I would say stepping outside of my comfort zone. Yeah, I found an area or a niche that I was good at, and I think I kind of rode that for a while, and I don't think I pivoted off of it soon enough. So don't feel afraid to take on different challenges and opportunities that will help you stretch and grow. Don't pigeonhole yourself. Be flexible and adaptable, and make sure that you're always in line with where the business is going, or even ahead of it. So that takes a lot of time to understand the business, understand your skill set, but really making sure that you don't limit yourself is extremely important.
I agree. Nothing to add from me. I think you said it all there.
got all the points.
All right. So I think we have one last question, and then we can begin our wrap up. Is how do you deal with burnout and work-life balance? Any tips there anyone can offer?
I take my holidays, quite simply. Regardless of what's going on, if I haven't got the energy and I can't concentrate, I'm not valuable at work. And as a parent, I'm not valuable at home, right? So I would just say if I'm feeling burnt out, I'm very transparent, I'm very open about it, and I take the time that I need and get the support that I need to make sure that I can be effective. The one thing that I would warn away from that I probably did earlier on in my career is that I would keep on going. If, for example, I wasn't where I needed to be, I wouldn't take that holiday, I wouldn't take that break. And taking that break, that mental break away from work and coming in with a fresh perspective can be exactly what you need to give you the fire and the energy to go on and have a great, rest of the month or rest of the year. So take your holidays, take a break, and be open about it.
And use Outlook. Look, I mean, when the pandemic started, all of us were working from home, and there were meetings from 8 to 8 without realizing that you were not even taking your mini breaks or your, food through the day. Learn the hard way is, use your Outlook, make sure that you have your proper breaks, calendarized in your diary, your lunch break, and, any other break that you need to take. And that helps you really avoid, getting this feeling of burnout, because that is really important. And to Shamila's point, take those holidays. If you don't take them, you're going to lose them. So, use them.
Yeah, and I think the last thing I'd like to add to both of those points realistically is just adjust your mindset too. I think a lot of times, as driven individuals that we are, and like as hardworking as we want to be, the work is never finished, right? But the idea is we always feel like we can get closer and closer to that goal. By spacing ourselves out and by preserving our mental health and well-being, we allow ourselves to run the entire race and not just a short sprint. time and time again. So just adjusting your mentality in terms of what your tasks are, really put an operational lens to it and say, what are my tasks that need to be done urgently? What are the tasks that need to be done next week? And really properly using, like Mufasa said, that outlook to really plan out accordingly what your day should look like in advance will allow you to make sure that you're not in multiple places at once, or having an 8 to 8 kind of day, because again, we're all afforded a 40-hour work week here at Gartner, so none of us should be realistically working that long or that hard throughout our careers.
I'd like to say that it's very much like a lot of things we talked about. It's a mental thing, and just like anything mentally, you have to be able to recognize it before you can try to start solving for it. So less, how do I deal with burnout and work-life balance, but more, how do I recognize, and how do I recognize and know the signs that I'm starting to come up to that point? And then once I know that that's happening, I do the things that Garvin, Shamila, and Mustafa are saying. You need to block time off on your calendar. You need to make your lists. You need to prioritize by what actually has to be done today, what can be done later. Make sure you always give the time you need for your own health.
Good. No, nothing to add on my part. This is definitely an area that I need to do a little better job of myself. So I'm definitely going to incorporate those tips into my routine. So in parting, we'd like to say that we've definitely enjoyed this discussion with you all today. Hopefully you've been able to glean some very important information or tips for how you could go about building your network and the importance of doing so. So as you're moving forward throughout your career, be sure that you stay focused and positive about how you're feeling about your future, where you're headed, and what you bring to an organization. Those are all very extremely important attributes that will help you as you move forward. So those are the things that will pay off in the long term and over a number of years. So again, as Garvin said, this is a sprint. It's not a marathon. Be methodical in how you move forward, and then get the right advocates and sponsors that will help you grow your career. So with that, if there are no other comments, questions, or concerns, I would like to thank you for joining today's discussion. And we look forward to hopefully seeing you all within the interview process moving forward. And if you'd like to learn more about Gartner, please feel free to use the hashtag #LifeAtGartner, and there you'll be able to find some resources and information that will give you some additional information. And I also see that there's a link in the chat that will take you to our careers website so that you could see some of the current positions that we have open.